Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Crime and Westerns on this Monday with episodes of Nick Carter, Master Detective, starring Lon Clark, Dana Andrews starring as Matt Cvetic and I Was a Communist for the FBI, Raymond Burr in an episode of the one-season Western Fort Laramie, dealing with, of course, the cavalry. Also, William Conrad as Marshal Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke, and Catherine Bart as Claudia. That's all coming up on this Monday, 29th day of July, 11th day of the year, 155 days remaining till we get to 2025. Cumberland School of Law, founded in Lebanon, Tennessee on this date in 1847. By the end of 1847, only 15 law schools existed in the United States. In 1907, Sir Robert Baden-Powell set up the Brownsea Island Scout Camp in Poole Harbor on the south coast of England. The camp ran from August 1st to 9th of 1987 and was regarded as the founding of the Scouting movement. In 1921, Adolf Hitler became leader of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. After a hiatus of 12 years caused by World War II, the first Summer Olympics to be held since the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin opened in London on this date in 1948. On this date in 1957, Jack Parr took over as the host of The Tonight Show.
The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated stations from coast to coast present the new Tonight, starring Jack Parr. And it's all live from New York.
You know, this is an hour and 45 minutes a night, and I can't figure it out, really. It's a telethon, but I can't figure who it's for. But welcome all of you to the new Tonight Show. We have with us tonight some wonderful people.
Parr would host the show for 5 years, not without controversy, but the show was very esoteric, very erudite, and it was a different show from the slapstick Steve Allen show, and it would find the middle ground after the show left and another kid took in from Nebraska. You heard him, Carson. Yeah. Also in the state of 1957, the International Atomic Energy Agency was established. 1958, President Eisenhower signed the National Aeronautics and Space Act into law, which created NASA. 1959, the first U.S. Congress elections in Hawaii as a State of the Union. In 1965, the first 4,101st Airborne Division paratroopers arrived in Vietnam, landing in Cam Ranh Bay. In 1967, 2 years later, off the coast of North Vietnam, the USS Forrestal caught on fire, the worst U.S. naval disaster since World War II, 134 killed. In New York City in 1976, the Son of Sam killed one person, seriously wounded another in the first of series of attacks. It was on this date in 1981, the marriage of Prince Charles to Lady Diana Spencer.
Charles Philip Arthur George, wilt thou have this woman to thy wedded wife?
I will.
Diana Francis, wilt thou have this man to thy wedded husband?
I will.
I pronounce that they be man and wife together.
It was not a forever marriage. The divorce finalized on August 28, 1996. In 1987, British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and President of France François Mitterrand signed the agreement to build the tunnel under the English Channel, the Eurotunnel.
The United Kingdom and France have decided today, on the basis of reports by experts, to link their two countries by a twin-bore tunnel under the channel for rail traffic and motor vehicle shuttle trains. Later, a drive-through link should be built.
Tunnel opened in 1994, estimated to cost £5.5 billion in 1985. It was at the time the most expensive construction project ever proposed. The cost finally amounted to £9 billion, equivalent to £22.6 billion today, or 29 billion US dollars. The Israeli Supreme Court acquitted Nazi death camp guard John Demonjanjuk on all charges, and he was set free. The controversial child protection portion of the Communications Decency Act of 1996 struck down as being too broad by a federal court. 2005, astronomers announced their discovery of Eris, a dwarf planet. On this date in 2015, 9 years ago, Microsoft released Windows 10, and within about a year, it will be no longer supported. Now, in 2021, the International Space Station temporarily spun out of control, moving at 45 degrees out of attitude following an engine malfunction. Passing away on this date in history, composer Robert Schumann, painter Vincent van Gogh, Mama Cass Elliot, make your own kind of music, gangster Mickey Cohen, TV producer Bill Todman of Goodson Todman Productions, the game show guys, actor Raymond Massey, actor David Niven, band leader Fred Waring, another great band leader, jazz musician Les Elgart. We have also pro wrestler Nikita Koloff and TV personality Tom Snyder. The Tomorrow Show, his big thing, the late night show, first one that was really popular and enough to gain momentum. Let's see, birthdays today include Benito Mussolini, the dictator, actress Theda Bara, also actor William Powell, actress Clara Bow, the second UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld, also lawyer and actor Melvin Belli, the world's foremost authority, Professor Irwin Corey, crazy guy, amazing though, the way he could double talk himself around and get back to the point. Richard Egan, another great actor, pro wrestling manager Captain Lou Albano, journalist Peter Jennings, born on this date, and from The Sopranos, Tony Sirico, all born on this date in history.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
Couple of former senators celebrating birthdays today. Kansas Senator Nancy Landon Kassabaum, the daughter of former presidential candidate and governor of the state of Kansas, Alf Landon, 92 years old today. Also, the senator from North Carolina, Elizabeth Dole, former Senator Dole, is 88 today. From Laramie, Wagon Train and Emergency, Robert Fuller is 91. From Rush, Geddy Lee, 71 years old. Pro wrestler Scott Steiner, 62. The Math Whiz. If you know anything about wrestling, you know what I'm talking about there. Singer Martina McBride, 58. Actor Will Wheaton is 52. From How I Met Your Mother, Josh Radnor is 50. And from Days of Our Lives and The Big Hero 6, Genesis Rodriguez is 37. Those are just a few of the people who celebrate the 29th day of July as their birthday. And if this happens to be your birthday...
Hi, we're the Four Freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
All right, we get started with crime on this Monday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Nick Carter, Master Detective, starring Lon Clark, from 79 years ago, July 29th, 1945, the case of the Unwritten Letter. That's next.
When you look over your morning mail, there's one thing you can be sure of. The bills always seem to arrive right on time. How do they do it? Ever notice that businessmen use zip code? How about you? Use zip code on all your mail and keep the good news moving fast, too. Don't tie up the mail. Use zip code.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, Nick Carter, Master Detective, starring Lon Clark, from 79 years ago, July 29th, 1945, and the case of the Unwritten Letter.
The Linux Show, starring Nick Carter, Master Detective, presented by Acme, America's great producer of fine quality paints. This is the story of a man known the world over as one of the most daring and resourceful characters in the history of detective fiction. A man whose name has become a symbol of the triumph of right and justice over the sinister forces of crime and lawlessness. A man recognized as one of the great masters of deduction. Nick Carter, Master Detective. Today's exciting case, The Unwritten Letter. Another exciting chapter dramatized from the life story of Nick Carter. In just a moment, we'll hear how Nick Carter investigated the strange murder of a man who died with a blank letter in his hand and captured a killer through an interview with a corpse. All work and no play makes Jill a tired housekeeper, but any homemaker can have enjoyable leisure time to spend as she likes when she depends on the three great Linux home brighteners, those efficient new shortcuts to the care of woodwork, furniture, and floors. Linux Clear Gloss, the modern brush-on finish, Linux Cream Polish for fine furniture, and Linux Self-Polishing Wax, the amazing new quick-drying wax product. Yes, the three great Linux home brighteners are the modern way to save household drudgery. They'll do your work in record time and do it with spick-and-span thoroughness. So start now to enjoy new leisure. Ask your hardware, paint, or department store for the three great Linux home brighteners, the efficient shortcuts to new home beauty. And now for today's exciting case from the life of Nick Carter. Breakfast is over in the old brownstone mansion at the corner of 5th and 4th, and Patsy and Nick are on their way into the master detective's study to begin the morning's work, when suddenly...
Oh, bother. I might have known there wouldn't be any peace today, just when we need it. Nick Carter's office.
Miss Bowen, Sergeant Matheson.
I hope this is a social call, Sergeant. We've got a whole morning's work ahead of us.
Yeah? Ask Nick if he'd like to be interrupted.
Nick, Sergeant Matheson wants to know if you'd like to have your work interrupted.
Ask him for what?
For what, Sergeant? I don't think Nick will settle for anything less than murder.
Ask him how he'd like to be haunted this morning.
Haunted?
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. Let's have the phone, Patsy. Hello, Matty.
Aha! Gotcha, hey, Nick.
What's all this about haunts?
Oh, some dame called up this morning from an old loft building down in the village. 23 Blaine Street. She claims she's being haunted. Not at night, mind you, but during the day.
Daytime ghosts. That's a new one.
Yeah, she claims they rumble at her all day long. I'm just on my way down there. You want to come along?
For spooks that rumble by day, you bet. Meet you in front of the building in 20 minutes.
Right.
Bye. Get your hat, Patsy, and put in the call for the car. You and I have a date with a ghost. This is it, Patsy. 23 Blaine.
Golly, what an ancient building this is. Looks as if Peter Stuyvesant built it.
And there's Matty coming down the street.
Oh, good morning, Nick.
Morning, Matty.
Morning, Miss Bowen.
Hi.
So Nick wouldn't settle for anything less than murder, eh? I notice you beat me here.
I take it all back, Sergeant. Let's go in and meet the ghost.
Who was it called you, Matty?
Oh, some dame named Madame Sear. That's her name there on the letterbox.
Madame Sear. Medium. Well, if that isn't the payoff. A medium afraid of ghosts. And in the daytime.
Door's locked. Must be a bell button under Madame Sear's nameplate. Ring it, Patsy.
Okay, I will. Oh, Nick!
It's a little upper Pete.
Better get in there fast, Matty. Get your shoulder against the door.
Those shooting guns are together, Nick. All right, again.
What's more should do it? Careful. Watch out for the debris, Patsy.
Right.
Come on, Matty.
This isn't turning out to be the skull.
What is it, Nick?
Hold it. Said I wouldn't settle for anything less than a murder, Patsy, huh? Well, you were right. There's a man on these steps, and he's been shot to death. All right, quiet, everybody, please. Quiet. Quiet. Matty, I'm not ready to examine the people in this building yet. I want them to be taken to a room and kept there.
Right. York, get him out of here.
Yes, sir. All right, all of you, get going.
Come on over here. Just follow the detective there. Go on, follow him. Okay, Nick. Now, what's the score?
I've searched this man's pockets. His name's Joe Kane. Address and business unspecified.
Uh-huh.
We shot through the chest twice with a .45 caliber slug. Died instantly.
Yeah?
What do those bruises and scratches on the face mean, Nick?
Kane was killed somewhere on the stairs. He dropped and rolled partway down.
Anything else?
2 clues. One fairly unpromising. The other, very odd.
Go ahead.
He's got a racing sheet in his pocket. Schedule of some small racetrack in a town upstate. I've nenever heard of the place, or the horses listed.
But then again, Nick, we don't know too much about horse racing.
And the odd clue.
In Kane's hand was clutched a large blue envelope, right here. Apparently, the reflex of death made him hold tight.
Well, what's odd about that?
One thing. There's no address, stamp, or mark on the envelope. There's a sheet of paper inside, with nothing written on it.
Well, for the love of Pete.
Envelope without an address. A letter with nothing written on it. But what does that mean?
I wish I knew. But I've got a hunch if we could answer that question, we'd know who killed Joe Kane and why.
Well, we know one thing, Nick. It's got to be one of the people in this building. We covered the front door. No one came out while we were going in.
That's right.
We've already checked the roof. It's sealed shut. No one went out that way. And the back door is bolted on the inside.
The windows?
All barred with heavy grates. The killer's got to be one of the people inside.
Good work, Matty. Now, what about him?
Well, there are 3 floors in this building. Each one is occupied. The first floor, Madame Cyr, the ghost-fearing medium.
The one who called you.
Yeah. The second floor, a guy named Charles Dower. Business as yet unspecified. The top floor is Hal Trask. He's a printer.
Madame Cyr, Charles Dower, Hal Trask.
Right.
That makes 3.
Plus the janitor, a guy named Olson, who was sweeping around the upper stairs.
I see. All right. Let's go in and have a talk with him.
York's got him in Madame Cyr's studio. You're going to question him separately, Nick?
No, all together.
Right.
Sometimes when 4 witnesses gel in a community story, it's easy to break them down later individually.
Oh, here they come now. All right. Now, quiet, folks. Quiet, please. Now, this is Nick Carter. He wants to ask you a few questions.
We've all seen the dead man. Has any of you ever seen him before? Seen him alive? Either you're afraid to answer, or none of you has ever seen him. Now, which is it? You. You're Mr. Olson, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Ever seen the dead man before?
No, sir. I don't see much of anybody in this building, sir.
That is right, Mr. Carter. We are all quiet. We all value our privacy. None of us pries into the secrets of strangers. We do not peek at those who walk the stairs. We keep to ourselves.
Madam Cyr, you telephoned to complain about ghosts this morning?
It was a revelation from the other world. I am ashamed of my first fear. I no longer complain.
And Mr. Trask?
Yes, sir. Printer, sir. Glow press up on the top floor. I never seen the dead man before, Mr. Carter.
I see. Mr. Dower?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Aren't you bad luck, Charlie Dower? Served 2 terms in Atlanta, specialist in card marking and tin-horn gambling rackets?
Mr. Carter,
no wonder his business was unspecified, Matty.
Hey, what a memory you got, Nick. I'd forgotten Dower. He's been out of circulation 5 years.
So here we are. Unknown Mr. Kane murdered on the steps of this building by one of you 4. All of you claim you never saw the man before. And I have the problem of finding which one of you is lying.
Well, it's not me.
All right, quiet. Well, what's the program, Nick?
All these people would stay inside the building. I want to search for the murder weapon, although I doubt if you'll find it in an old rat trap like this. It could stay here hidden for 100 years.
We'll try.
I want the squad to check the history of the building and every person in here.
We'll do it.
Patsy and I are going to take the car and run up to Taunton. We'll be back in a few hours.
But
right.
Why go to Taunton?
Because it's the home of the Taunton racetrack. Joe Kane's tip sheet was the schedule of today's races. Maybe we can find out something about murder up there.
Just another few minutes, Nick. That sign said Taunton 1/2 mile.
Right.
Why have you been so glum all the way up here, Nick?
I've been mulling over the case, Patsy. I don't like it.
What don't you like about it?
The whole thing is a phony ring about it. 3 crooks, or semi-crooks, all operating in that building. All probably lying as hard as they can.
Yes?
How did Kane get into the building? The door was locked when we tried it. Either he rang one of the bells, which means the tenants were lying, or he had a key, which means Olson, the janitor, was lying.
That's true.
In the second place, what about that blue envelope containing an unwritten letter? Why was Kane carrying it?
But invisible ink, maybe. Secret message?
Carried so that we jump to that obvious conclusion? No. I doubt it, Patsy.
Oh, slow down. Here's Taunton. We'll go through it before we see it.
Seems pretty quiet. We're a racetrack town.
Uh-huh. I haven't seen anything faintly resembling a track.
We better ask that youngster over there. Hi, Sonny.
Oh, hi there.
Yes, you, son. Come over here a minute, will you?
Oh, yes, sir, mister. What's on your mind?
Which way to the racetrack?
The which?
The racetrack. The Taunton racetrack.
I don't know what you're talking about, lady.
You live here long?
All my life.
Here. Take a look at this.
Taunton racetrack. Handicap race. Hey, mister, this is some kind of a gag. There ain't no track in Taunton. We ain't never had a race in this town. You're being taken for an awful ride by someone.
You're telling us. Nick, this is weird.
Thanks, son. Let's get back to the city, Patsy. True enough, we've been taken for a ride. And believe me, it's carried us miles closer to the solution of this case.
Nick, I wish you'd explain. Oh, don't act so mysterious.
I'll explain soon, Patsy.
But I want to hear now.
You will, just as soon as I've spoken to Matty. And asked the janitor a few questions. Here we are, 23 Blaine. Hope Matty's inside. Come on.
Oh, Nick. Sometimes you can be so aggravating.
Patience, Patsy. Come on inside.
Nick! Oh, for Pete's sake. Am I glad you're back?
You got a fresh lead, Matty?
Fresh lead, fresh trouble, that's what I got.
Well, I'll iron it out as soon as I've spoken to Olson, the janitor.
Olson's my trouble, Nick. He's just committed suicide.
An unwritten letter, a non-existent horse race, and now the suicide of a key witness. How will Nick straighten out this tangle of events? We'll see in just a moment. The up-to-date way of doing a thing is usually the best way, and you certainly find that's the case when you beautify your floors and linoleum with Linex self-polishing wax, the modern way to perfect floor care. One practical test is all you need to know that here is a quick-drying wax which is really different. Linex self-polishing wax, made from a new formula, was developed by leading research chemists to give new beauty, new protection, new skid resistance to all your floors. And Linex self-polishing wax contains the greatest possible amount of real carnauba wax for that handsome, satiny finish only real wax can give. What's more, the underwriters' laboratories have proved by test that any linoleum, hardwood, or rubber tile floor is actually less slippery after Linex self-polishing wax has been applied. Best of all, Linex self-polishing wax takes only a jiffy to use, for you simply wipe it on without tiresome rubbing. And it dries quickly to a beautiful luster that's a joy to behold. So choose genuine Linex self-polishing wax, one of the finest products of its kind. Ask your dealer now for all 3 great Linex home brighteners to give your home new beauty the easy Linex way. And now, back to our story. A complaint about a haunted loft building brought Nick Carter, Patsy, and Sergeant Matheson down to an ancient office building in time to hear, but not witness, the murder of Joe Kane. Curious clue to the murder was an unwritten letter in the dead man's hand and a racetrack program for a non-existent race. Then the janitor of the building, Sergeant Matheson announces, suddenly has committed suicide. Now Nick, Patsy, and the sergeant examine the dead body.
It's pretty careless of you, Matty.
Oh, honest, Nick, how was I to know? I was down in the cellar with the squad looking for the murder gun, when all of a sudden we hear the shot. We never thought that
You'll find the weapon in Olson's hand. Yes, I understand. Well, 5 will get you 10. This is the gun that killed Kane.
But why should Olson kill himself?
Yeah, probably thought we were hot on his trail.
Maybe, but I'm not so sure Olson did kill himself.
What?
Why not?
Too pat, too convenient. I've worked on thousands of cases, Matty. I never yet had a killer give up so easily.
But it looks legit, Nick. Bullet wound in the right temple, gun in the right hand. I happen to know Olson was right-handed because I saw him sweeping.
There are powder burns around the wound. The gun was fired at close range. Why, the body looks as though it had fallen naturally.
Maybe, but I doubt it. I'm going to take the gun back to my lab for a quick check. Have a man send over the fingerprints for the entire crowd here, Matty.
Right.
Oh, any of those reports come in yet about the building and the people?
I expect them any minute now.
Wait here for me when you get them. Patsy and I'll be back in half an hour.
All right.
Oh, and by the way, Matty.
Yes, Nick.
How much would you like to bet that Olson never was janitor of this building? Patsy. There you are. Every print on this gun dusted and brought up, and all of them sharp and clear as crystal.
Now what?
Now we compare. Let's have that sheet Matty sent over.
Here you are.
Thanks.
What are you looking for, Nick?
Oh, I found it already. Just checking to make sure.
Found what? Oh, don't be so mysterious, Nick.
Look for yourself, Patsy. Every print on this gun belongs to Olson. You can't miss it.
Yes, I see, Nick. Well, doesn't that prove suicide?
Think hard, Patsy. What happens when you shoot a .45 automatic?
Why, it fires a bullet.
And then what happens to the gun?
It stays in your hand, I guess.
Gently, quietly, without a fuss?
Oh, no, it kicks.
Exactly. And would you explain why Olson's prints on the gun are sharp and clear as crystal?
Oh.
Obviously, if he'd held the gun and shot himself, his prints would have been smudged and smeared by the recoil. But they aren't.
Nick.
You get it now, huh? Olson was murdered by the same person who killed Joe Kane. Then the gun was wiped clean and carefully placed in Olson's hand. That's why the prints are so clear.
Oh, that just mixes the case up more than ever.
Oh, no, Patsy. It's becoming clearer than ever. Let's hustle back to Matty. I only hope there haven't been any more murders while we were gone. All right, Matty, we're back.
Oh, Nick. Hey, Nick, you're fantastic. How did you know, man? How did you know?
About the murder?
No, about Olson. Reports just come in. You were right. He was lying. He wasn't the janitor of this building.
Golly.
The janitor of this place is a guy up on the corner. He takes care of this whole row of buildings.
And everybody in here was lying when they accepted him as the janitor.
I don't think so. This is a dark little place, and the real janitor probably doesn't spend more than a few minutes a week here.
Yeah, just about. They're all pretty careless.
The few times he was seen wasn't enough to make an impression. So when Olson said he was a janitor, he was accepted.
But the killer?
The killer was lying, naturally.
Hey, wait a minute, Nick. How did Olson get in here?
Oh, Joe Kane let him in.
Joe Kane? The dead man?
Yes.
When?
Probably a few seconds before we arrived. Olson followed Kane into the building.
How did Kane get in?
Pretty sure Kane let himself in.
How?
With a key.
Nick, you sound as though you got the whole business washed up and finished.
Think I'm pretty close to it.
You know why Kane carried that blank letter?
I do.
And about the non-existent horse race?
Yes.
And why Olson killed himself?
He was murdered, and I think I know why.
Well, then will you please talk?
One more little test, Matty, and the murderer will talk in person.
What's the test?
We've got 3 people left. Madam Sear, Trask the printer, and Dower the gambler.
Yeah.
All of them claim they don't know Joe Kane. Well, one of them's lying, and I want to find out which.
How?
I'm going to make some arrangements with Patsy. And then we're going to meet around Madam Sear's crystal globe, all of us.
Holy smoke. More ghost stuff?
So to speak. The body of Joe Kane is going to walk into the room, and we'll see who recognizes it.
Oh, but that's silly, Nick. They all saw Kane's body.
There's a tremendous difference between recognizing a living man and a dead body, Patsy. Totally dissimilar people look identical when they're dead. We've had hundreds of cases of husbands identifying dead strangers as their wives in the morgue.
And vice versa. It's true, Patsy. I see Nick's point.
Now, those suspects who really don't know Kane will not recognize a living imitation after having seen the body only once. But those who knew him...
I get it.
Then let's get moving. We'll meet the dead body at 7 tonight. All right, everybody. All right. We've gathered together in Madam Sear's studio for a last attempt to solve this murder.
You do well to trust the world of the medium, Mr. Carter. It is capable of miracles far beyond your mere earthly efforts.
Quite. I've requested Sergeant Matheson to have present the only surviving occupants of this building. Mr. Trask, Mr. Dower, and Madam Sear, of course. Miss Bowen, my secretary, will act as witness. Sergeant Matheson will preside. And I'll ask the question. Will you all be seated, please?
Everybody down, folks. Come on.
I presume you work best with the crystal in the dark, Madam Sear.
Oh, that is correct.
Lights out, please, Matty.
Right.
Thank you. And now, Madam Sear, with your help, we will try to recreate the murder scene in the magic crystal.
First, there must be silence.
And silence you shall have.
The crystal is cloudy tonight. There is much antagonism in this room. The veil can be parted only with difficulty. Ah, now the clouds begin to vanish from the glass. I see faint lights, faint forms swirling in the blackness. I see a figure. It is a man. It is the dead one. He walks through night followed by shadows. There is one shadow I see with a gun. Sergeant Madison, I hear it again. The spirit's talking.
Oh, for the love of Pete.
Do you hear it?
All right,
the
take it
groaning
easy,
and the
everybody.
rumbling of the dead.
And this is what made you telephone this morning?
In heaven's name, protect me. You hear it, don't you? You hear it?
Wait, listen. Someone's coming to the door.
It is the other world coming to us. In the name of heaven, do not let that thing in here. It's Joe Kane, the dead man.
Yes, Joe Kane, all right. I thought he was killed. And that, ladies and gentlemen, winds up the seance in our case. Lights, please, Matty.
Oh, but...
No excitement, please. Quiet. The show's over.
But I...
Sit down, Madam Sear. Please be calm. It's not Joe Kane. Merely an actor appropriately costumed and made up.
Nick, they both recognized him. They were both lying. Madam Sear and Mr. Dower. Trask never batted an eyelash. He told the truth.
Yes, Patsy. And I might add, it's because Mr. Hal Trask told the truth about not knowing Joe Kane that he'll be executed for his murder. You'll never prove it.
Oh, no, you don't, brother.
A very clever crime, Mr. Trask, and for an unusual racket. Yes, Patsy, you were right. Trask told the truth. He did not know Crane. Dower and Madam Sear lied. They knew him. They'd seen him in the building frequently, but they didn't know he ran the Globe print shop upstairs.
Yeah, we figured it'd be better to say we never saw him before.
Naturally. Both of you are afraid of the police. Try to keep clear of murder by lying. You didn't know that Joe Kane's racket was printing phony programs of non-existent horse races, and that he used these to induce innocent victims to book bets with him. Bets which he pocketed and disappeared with.
You're right, Carter. Kane had a hot racket. We heard about the dough he was making. It was a good thing.
So good that you and Olson decided to come up and acquire a piece of his money. A big piece. Only Olson acquired nothing but death. And you've acquired a one-way trip to the chair.
In just a few minutes, Nick will be back to give you the final details of today's story and tell you why the murdered man carried an unwritten letter. Dust, finger marks, and accumulated polish all are likely to make furniture look dull and cloudy. So naturally, the first step in furniture care is to remove that cloudiness and then give your furniture a beauty treatment with the finest polish you can find. Well, Linex Cream Polish for fine furniture does the whole job at once. Yes, that's right. Linex Cream Polish cleans as it polishes. That means you cut the job in two, save half the time, half the work. That's why so many thousands of modern American women are swinging to Linex Cream Polish, which cares for household things the easy way. See that your fine furniture keeps its good looks with Linex Cream Polish, which restores its original gleaming beauty in one simple process. Because Linex Cream Polish dries hard, it even cuts down future work, for it leaves no oil on the surface to attract more dust. So make it a point to use Linex Cream Polish, which cleans as it polishes. You'll find all three great Linex home brighteners, Linex Cream Polish, Linex Self-Polishing Wax, and Linex Clear Gloss, the longer-lasting brush-on finish, at hardware, paint, and department stores everywhere. And remember that your dealer is headquarters also for Chemtone, the miracle wall finish that brings quick new sparkle to walls and ceilings. Chemtone covers in one coat, dries in 1 hour. And now let's hear from Nick Carter himself. Nick, I understand the motive for Joe Kane's murder, but what about that unwritten letter?
Well, get the picture, Ken. Trask and Olson decided to rob Joe Kane. They'd heard he was making a fortune out of his racetrack fraud, and they wanted a piece of it. But neither of them knew him.
So?
Obviously, they couldn't take a chance of Kane arriving in his office while they were rifling the place, so Olson remained downstairs to watch, while Trask went up to rob.
But how could Olson watch for Kane if he didn't know him?
By a simple thug's trick. He placed a large blue envelope in the Globe print shop letterbox. All he had to do was watch that. He knew whoever took the blue envelope out of the letterbox would be Joe Kane.
Well, that's clever enough.
So when Kane arrived and picked up his letter, Olson quickly followed him into the building, first signaling upstairs on the buzzer to Trask. Olson followed in case Trask couldn't get away in time.
And evidently he couldn't.
Right. Kane saw Trask leaving his office. He pulled a gun, the .45 automatic. Olson closed in from behind. Kane was killed and rolled down the steps. I doubt if Trask ever got a really good look at Kane. Then, as we pounded on the door below, they thought quickly. Trask pretended to be the proprietor of the print shop. Olson grabbed a broom and played janitor.
Golly.
But later, Trask realized Olson's pose would be uncovered. So the first chance he had, he murdered his partner to keep him quiet. He tried to get rid of the gun by planning it as a suicide weapon.
But, how about the ghosts that Madame Sear thought she heard? We heard them, too, when you kidded her into staging a seance.
Well, that's the strangest thing about the case. If it hadn't been for Madame Sear's ghost, we'd never have entered the case, and never have broken it. And if it hadn't been for the ghost, there wouldn't have been a case in the first place.
Why not?
Because Madame Sear's ghost was the distant rumble of a new printing machine Joe Kane had just had installed so he could print more of his phony race sheets. I had an officer turn it on to haunt the seance.
Well, Nick, I hope you have as exciting a story for us next week. What's it going to be?
Well, Ken, next week we're going to meet the champion apple pie maker of the East, who, fortunately for me, also happens to be an old friend of mine.
She came to complain that her landlord papered her walls without her permission.
Unfortunately, when we arrived, we discovered that the paper hanger had not only hung the wallpaper, he'd hung himself.
Sounds like a strange story. What do you call it, Nick?
The Case of the Hanging Paper Hanger.
And now an important message from Nick Carter.
Remember what happened after World War I? The inflation and the boom period, then the crash, and the worst depression America has ever known. Now, let's not permit that to happen again. Let's resolve to buy only what we need, paying ration points in full, paying no more than ceiling price. Let's resolve not to profiteer on our own services or produce. And let's buy and keep war bonds to protect America's future and our own.
Nick Carter, Master Detective, is copyrighted by Street and Smith Publications, Incorporated. Lon Clark is starred as Nick. Charlotte Manson plays Patsy. Original music is played by George Wright. Any resemblance in these programs to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. The entire production is under the direction of Jock McGregor. Nick Carter, Master Detective, is presented at this time and over these same stations each week by the three great Linex home brighteners: Linex self-polishing wax, Linex cream polish, and Linex clear gloss, created by Acme, America's great producer of Acme fine quality paints. This is Ken Powell speaking for the thousands of Linex dealers all over America and saying so long until next week. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
And there you have it. 79 years ago, July 29th, 1945, Nick Carter, Master Detective. Up next, I was a communist for the FBI.
There's an issue cutting through the partisanship in Congress. It's AM radio. The overwhelming majority of legislators, Democrats and Republicans, support a bill to keep AM radio in cars. But time is running out. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to the floor for a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Now on this Monday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, let's go back 71 years, July 29th, 1953. Dana Andrews as Matt Cvetic. I was a communist for the FBI, and the line is busy.
I was a communist for the FBI.
Starring Dana Andrews in an exciting tale of danger and espionage. I was a communist for the FBI. Many of the incidents in the story you're about to hear are based on the actual records and authentic experiences of Matt Cvetic, who for 9 fantastic years lived as a communist for the FBI. Here is our star, Dana Andrews, as Matt Cvetic.
Secrecy among communists is the product of a strange, unholy philosophy. They consider it their inalienable right to make your secrets their own. And once having stolen them, they'll protect those secrets to the last breath of your life. This is the story of one such secret and too many lives.
In a moment, listen to Dana Andrews as Matt Cvetic, Undercover Man. Now, here is Dana Andrews as Matt Cvetic, Undercover Man. This story from the confidential file is marked, "The line is busy."
Get away from the commies? It's just not done. You can put miles between yourself and your red comrades, 200 miles in my case. You can check in at an obscure hotel in a town on the border of oblivion. You can hole up and hide for a week, even 10 days, under cover of a phony excuse like a business trip. But just as you start relaxing, just as the nerves uncoil a bit... Who is it?
Telegram for Mr. Cvetic.
Okay.
Mr. Cvetic?
Yeah, I'll take it.
There's a sign here, please.
Mm-hmm. There you are.
Well, thank you, Mr. Cvetic.
Don't leave town. Instructions will follow. Webster. Why don't they let me alone? Why don't they let me alone? Webster, Comrade Harry Webster, leader of a commie cell 200 miles away. Yet no farther away from me than this telegram. His instructions came the next morning by registered mail. Rent an apartment at 224 West Globe Street, they said. Install telephone. Wait for me there. Signed, Webster. .224 West Globe Street, quiet building, unpretentious. In the lobby, I checked the names on the mailboxes, seeking some clue to this strange new commie assignment. Johnson, Resnick, Maloney, Clark, Rager, that name... A name who...
Something I can do for you?
Yes,
I'm Mrs. Chanick.
How do you do? My name is Cvetic.
So?
I was just wondering about apartments. The manager...
That's me. I got 2 apartments vacant. They both got 1 bedroom. That big enough?
Oh, just right.
You want a lease or month to month?
Well, month to month, I guess.
Costs $5 more that way. Take a lease.
Well, I'd rather not.
Your wife will like it better with a lease, too.
Well, this is for a friend of mine. I'm just renting it for him. He travels quite a bit.
Oh, I see. He's married?
No, he's...
We don't like noise here, you know. We don't like that.
You needn't worry about my friend, Mrs. Chanick.
You'll vouch for him?
By all means.
Well...
He doesn't like noise or excitement either. He's really a very desirable tenant. May I see the apartment now? The apartment was on the 3rd floor rear, furnished in neat, unimaginative bad taste. I paid Mrs. Chanick a month's rent and registered the place in Harry Webster's name. And then, after a quick wire to Comrade Webster, I found a phone booth and placed a long-distance call to the FBI. There you are, operator. Beaker, this is Red.
I've been waiting for you, chum. You were due back home yesterday.
I haven't left yet. My clients have plans for me.
Good or bad?
Too early to tell yet. They may want me to stay here in town.
For how long?
Well, I can't say. They told me to rent an apartment. Even named the building they wanted.
Uh-oh. What's the address?
224 West Globe Street.
224 West... Hey, hold on a minute.
Well, hurry up, Beaker. This is long distance, you know.
I'm just checking something here. Yeah, here it is.
What?
The Albatross Tool Corporation's in that town, right?
Well, that's right.
The government just gave Albatross a big order. They'll be manufacturing parts for a new atomic weapon.
The Albatross plant is a long way from Globe Street.
Not as far as you think. Washington's assigned one of its top scientists to work as an advisor at Albatross. Your little red playmates would give their eye teeth to know what he knows.
Yeah, that's probably what they have in mind. Who is he?
Rager. Dr. Martin Rager. And he's staying at 224 West Globe Street.
Ah, Cvetic. Good. Hello, Webster. Come on in.
Yeah.
You didn't waste any time getting here.
Naturally not. You might offer to help with your cell-leader suitcases.
The proletarian revolt is dedicated to a classless society, comrade. Carry your own suitcases.
Cvetic, if you weren't so competent, I despised you. There now. Is there a phone?
Yeah, it was installed this morning. Don't know who would be calling us in this town, though.
I'm not interested in our phone calls, comrade. I'm concerned with Dr. Rager's calls. You notice he lives in this building address?
Yes. He's a pretty important scientist, I understand.
Very. Important to the Americans, therefore important to us. We'll be tapping his phone.
Tapping his phone? You don't expect him to be telling atomic secrets on the phone, do you?
I do.
You're underestimating the enemy, comrade.
No, Cvetic. One of Dr. Rager's associates at Albatross happens to be an associate of the Communist Party.
No, I didn't know that.
He'll see that Dr. Rager uses the telephone quite a bit. You know, casual conversations, after-hours sudden thoughts, worthy of informal discussion.
And you expect our agent to pump secrets out of Dr. Rager that way?
One secret, in small, insignificant doses. Our own scientists need the formula for one of the metals used in this project. And once he gets the formula, his orders are to clear out, fast. We're tuning in on his calls to Rager as double protection, in case our man is picked up.
Still, phone tapping is such a primitive method.
Primitive, you say?
Yes, it's just...
Here, Cvetic. Open the suitcase.
What?
Open it.
Okay. What's all this?
Wiretapping equipment, comrade. I want to brief you on this one particular phase of simple wiretapping.
Don't you think I've had enough education for one night, Webster?
No, once more. Describe the phone circuit.
A closed circle of wire carrying voice vibrations with the current. In office or apartment buildings, terminal boxes are usually located in the basement. They contain many... On and on and on. All night, all the next day. The commie technique for education. Drum a man into submission. Drum out every conscious thought but the subject to be learned. One thought remained, though. I had to get word to the FBI. Beaker had to know. Dr. Rager had to be warned, and I was the only one to do it. But instead of protecting a national secret, I was playing stooge to a commie. Taking orders, obeying commands, holding a flashlight for Comrade Webster as he searched the basement for the telephone terminal box.
Here, Cvetic. Over here. Hold the light steady. I want to open this box.
Are those lines the pairs?
Bring the light closer. Good. See, each pair is attached to a set of terminal posts. We loosen the wires of our pair from our posts. So.
I see. Now you cross them to the terminal post of Dr. Rager's phone. That it?
An apt pupil of primitive wiretapping. Now, let's go.
That's all?
That's all here. Now upstairs. Our apartment will be our listening post. Once that's arranged, Dr. Rager's private line will become our party line.
Now, two things had to be done. One, I had to break that tap on Rager's phone. And two, I had to reach Beaker at the FBI. But unless I could get away from Webster, I could do exactly nothing.
Now, when Rager's phone rings, this phone will ring.
We can hear both ends of his line on these earphones.
Exactly. The tape recorder, Cvetic. Set it up over here. Knock it. You're careful.
Oh, sorry. I almost dropped it.
What's wrong with you, comrade? You seem nervous, upset.
Well, I'm tired, I guess. You've kept me up almost 2 nights now, educating me. Maybe I'd better...
Here, hold this, will you?
Maybe I better get some air.
No, pull it tight.
A walk might do me some good.
Don't be a fool. Our work's just begun. Relax, lie down, rest. Don't burn up your energy walking the streets. You'll need every ounce of it. Cvetic, wake up, you fool. It's morning.
No? What is it?
The phone, you idiot. Look alive. Hand me the earphones.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There. Someone's answered it. Start the tape machine. Mrs. Rager on the line. Now, the garden club meets Tuesday. Someone's husband has a rash behind his ear. Oh, turn off that fool machine.
That's how it was most of the day. Conversations with grocery clerks, club women, solicitors. The only item of interest we heard was the fact that Dr. Rager would be home at 2 p.m. Evidently, our comic colleague knew that, too, for he didn't try to phone Rager at all. Then, about 2:30, Webster was dozing in his chair, and I...
Get it, Cvetic.
Okay.
Hello.
Turn on the tape. Rager's on the line.
Dr. Rager, please. Speaking. Who is this? This is the Can-Do Garage, Dr. Rager. Who?
What's happening, Cvetic?
The Can-Do Garage, Doctor. Your car is ready to be picked up. My car? Why, it's all ready, Doctor. There's no one here to deliver it, so I'm afraid you'll have to call for it yourself. Well, I'll try to be there sometime as soon as possible, Doctor. We're closing early today. All right. Who is this, please? The Can-Do Garage. No, your name, please. Oh, one of the mechanics, Doctor. We've met before. My name is Beaker.
Beaker, here in town now. Just a few blocks away. In a little while, he'd probably be gone, out of reach again. I had to get to him now, right now. But how? How?
Back to Dana Andrews, starring as Matt Cvetic in I Was a Communist for the FBI, and the second act of our story.
Beaker, on Dr. Rager's phone, right here in this miserable little town. Just a few blocks from this building, but out of my reach. Now I had to reach him. He and Rager had to know what the Reds were planning. And only I could tell them. Only...
What's wrong with you, comrade?
What?
You're white as a sheet.
Oh, that phone call to Rager. We'd better follow him.
Follow him? To a garage?
To a garage or anywhere else. The party has a big investment in him, you know.
Well, that's true, but...
We can't afford to let him just walk away from us. These stakes are high, Webster. Any kind of insurance for the party's sake. And think of our own personal stake in this. What would happen to us if we lose track of Dr. Rager? One of us should trail him.
Relax, Cvetic. There's no need for us to...
You, of all people, can't afford any slip-ups now, Webster. The party put you in charge of this operation.
Well, I can't very well leave here now.
You would be held responsible if Rager...
But why should Rager duck out on the snow? No one knows about our
How
plan.
do we know that? Suppose our agent at the Albatross plant has pushed his luck too far. Suppose the FBI knows of this tap of ours. I say you'd better follow Rager.
Well, can you handle the equipment alone?
Well, I suppose I can if I...
No, better not chance it.
But one of us had better stay on Rager's trail.
Yes, perhaps you'd better go.
I? Or are you sure that...
Go on, Cvetic. Somebody's got to trail him. Go on.
It worked. Reverse English on the old con game. Now I was free, just for a few minutes, but I was free. Free to do the work I'd been trying to do for 2 days. Free to undo the work Comrade Webster had accomplished so efficiently. First to the basement of the building to find that terminal box again. To break the tap on Rager's phone while I had the chance. Here, right here. I knew this much about it. I knew that I could break the tap by disconnecting the wires of our phone from the terminal posts of Rager's phone. I knew, too, that the break wouldn't be recognized by Webster right away. It would just seem as though the phone were out of use for a while. There, they were loose. Now to it.
Somebody there? Somebody in the basement?
Mrs. Chanak, the building manager. Now what?
Yoo-hoo! Someone in the basement? Well, I could have sworn I knew.
The tap was off Rager's phone now, but there was no time to rehook the lines as they originally were. I had to get out fast. Had to get to Beaker before Webster got wise to all this. I had to hurry.
Taxi! Hey, taxi!
The Can-Do Garage, just about 4 blocks down there. Make it snappy. Say, I'm looking for a mechanic named Matt.
What the devil are you doing here?
I'm looking for you, Beaker. Rager here yet?
No, not yet. How'd you know I was here?
I heard you on Rager's phone. We're tapping it.
Oh, that's it.
I would have checked in sooner, but I couldn't shake Webster.
I thought so. That's why I came here. Figured I better not wait any longer. If something was cooking in the red pot, Rager had to be told.
That red pot is about to boil over. They have a commie operating right next to Rager at the Albatross plant.
I know.
You know?
The Bureau's been watching him for 2 months.
Then why...
We can't pin anything on him, though. And we've got to have some legitimate evidence before we can pick him up.
Pick him up for double parking or anything. His job is to bait Dr. Rager on the phone, then duck as soon as Rager spills information about a formula.
Good. Keep the tap open.
What?
Keep the tap on the line. I'll tell Rager to hand out a phony formula. Then when the commie agent tries to duck with it, we can use it as evidence to grab him, like marked money.
But, Beaker, we can't. This
Matt,
tap is...
somebody's coming down the ramp.
Look, we can't use the tap.
I don't want anybody to see us together, Matt. Now, go on.
Beaker, listen to me.
Matt, you're supposed to be a commie. Commies don't talk with FBI agents. If that's one of your spying
For
comrades...
Pete's sake, will you listen
go
to
on,
me?
Matt, take off. Now. Please, beat it.
Nice. Just great. I'd risked my neck to mess up the tap on Rager's phone, and now I had to risk it again to put the tap back into action. The basement again. At least it was quiet, and gloomy enough to offer a little comfort in the shadows. I'd passed the storeroom. Up there was the furnace room with the terminal box, just a few feet.
Who's that? Somebody here? Who?
Yes, Mrs. Janik.
Who is it? I can't see in this... Oh, you, Mr. Cvetic. You're looking for something?
Yes,
What could you want in this messy basement?
Well, the storeroom. I was just wondering about some storage space.
You got much to store?
No, well, yes. Yes, there is quite a bit. Trunks. 2 trunks. Big ones.
Oh, we got room for trunks. I tell you, my husband's home. I'll tell him you should go up and get your trunk.
Oh, no, don't bother now. You see, they aren't here yet.
Not here?
No, they're being shipped in.
Oh, not here yet.
No, not for another week or so. You know, freight and everything.
Oh, sure. Well, let me know when they get here. You coming upstairs, Mrs. Cvetic?
Well, I thought I'd look around and see where the washtubs are.
Behind the storeroom. Turn out the lights when you get done, okay?
Yes, I will, Mr. Chanik. I sure will. I waited till she'd gone up the stairs and out. Then I headed for the terminal box again. I'd used too much time already. Rager might even be back in his apartment by now. The commie spy might even have called him. Rager might have given him the phony information, and without the tap working, there'd be no record of it. The tap had to be replaced right now. I opened the lid, reached inside for the wire I'd left dangling, lit a match to see better. No wire. Wait a minute. It was attached to the terminal post of Rager's phone again. Someone had deliberately replaced the tap on Rager's line. There was only one person in the building qualified to do that. Webster.
What do you think
Webster, you're an inefficient, bumbling moron.
One moment, Comrade Cvetic. I have a few choice words for you, too.
Save them. You'll need every gasp of breath to explain your negligence to the Control Commission. I'm preparing a full report of this, Webster. When stupidity and incompetence reaches these proportions.
Well, I don't know what you mean.
You know full well what I mean. Mrs. Chanik stopped me on my way up here just now.
Who?
Mrs. Chanik, the landlady or manager, whatever she calls herself. She wanted to know why you were in the basement a while ago, tampering with the telephone box.
She saw me?
Of course she saw you.
But I was sure no one...
She saw you. She saw you open the box, tamper with the wires. She was just going to call the phone company when I showed up.
Well, I could swear no one was there.
It was all I could do, Webster, to nullify her suspicions. I didn't do it for you. I did it for the party. I have no use for bumblers. I'm sure our leaders will...
Comrade, please, let me explain.
How can you explain an act that violates every...
Please, listen to me.
All right. Go on.
The phone seemed awfully quiet after you left. Too quiet. As if the tap had been tampered with. I went down to the basement to check and found that the wires had slipped off the terminal post.
Slipped off?
Yes.
But you put those wires on yourself.
Well, at first I thought they'd been tampered with, disconnected by something.
You expert. Virtuoso of the telephone line.
Comrade, I tell you...
Not only do you threaten party security with your carelessness, but you sabotage this whole project with your incompetent handling of... Yeah, that's Rager's phone. Listen in. Let's see how you can mess this up.
Yes. Rager's answered it. The tape. It's our comrade, our agent at Albatross.
Well, it's about time. What's he saying?
Shh. Rager's reciting a formula. Here, give me a pencil, quick.
Here you are.
He's repeating it.
Is it the one we want?
Quiet. I'm listening. Got it. I've got all of it. All the formula.
It might be a phony.
Not the way our comrade is reacting. He's a scientist, too, you know.
They're still talking?
That's all. All right. That's all we need on the tape. Now we're doubly protected. Our agent will duck out immediately to deliver the information.
And if he's caught?
He's expendable. We have the formula here on tape and on this piece of paper.
Let me have that paper.
What?
Let me have it. After your last fiasco, you think you can be trusted with that? Give it to me.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to phone it in to party headquarters from the payphone across the street, just in case our agent's luck changes.
But I told you we have it all on this tape.
Our luck may change, too. Don't forget, Mrs. Chanik. If she reports you, Webster,
Well, she wouldn't.
Wouldn't she? How do we know? You stay here. Monitor the telephone calls in case Rager talks again. I'll be back.
Comrade Cvetic.
What is it?
Nothing.
I left Webster in the apartment and walked into the street. There was a car parked at the curb just outside 224 West Globe Street. 3 men were seated in the car. One of the men was Beaker. When he saw me, he stepped out of the car and headed toward the building, and me.
Pardon me, sir.
Me?
Yes, I wonder if you can tell me if a Mr. Webster lives in that building?
Webster? No, I'm sorry, I wouldn't know. I'm just passing through. I kept right on walking as the other two FBI men followed Beaker into the building. Webster, with all that illegal equipment, was about to become very inactive. The red agent at the Albatross Corporation had probably already been picked up for espionage, and I kept on walking, back to the commies again. I'd escaped this FBI trap, so I'd probably be complimented by my red comrades. A dubious glory, but I had no choice. If I had any choice at all, I'd choose to walk the other way. I'd choose to walk alone. This is Dana Andrews, friends. Because of the nature of freedom, the democracies have inherited the destinies of many afflicted peoples. Let's pray that we never violate that trust. For humanity's greatest affliction is tyranny, and freedom is its antidote. In the story you've just heard, names, dates, and places are fictitious to protect innocent persons. Many of these stories are based on incidents in the life of Matt Cvetic, who worked undercover for the FBI. Next week, another fantastic adventure. Join us then, won't you?
71 years ago, July 29th, 1953, I was a communist for the FBI back in the days of landlines. Don't you know that? That was a much simpler and yet much more complex time. Tomorrow on Classic Radio Theater, our feature day will be July 30th, 1961, with episodes of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Mandel Kramer, and an episode of Suspense. Also, The Saint, The Whistler, and Superman. That's all coming up on our Tuesday program. But right now, we're going to head out to Fort Laramie.
The Postmaster General of the United States, W. Marvin Watson.
Each year, the mail load increases by billions of letters, parcels, and publications. To handle this tremendous volume of mail, we need a modern postal system, and we're working toward that goal. What can be done now? The easiest, fastest way to improve mail service is to use zip code. With zip code, mail can be sorted faster and more efficiently. Help yourself to better postal service. Use zip code.
Postal rates when that message aired were 6 cents. It's now 73 cents for a first-class letter. Ah, the good old days. We're going to go back to other good old days. 68 years ago, July 29th, 1956, an episode of Fort Laramie starring Raymond Burr.
At the gallop! Ho! Fort Laramie. Fort Laramie, starring Raymond Burr as Captain Lee Quince. Specially transcribed tales of the dark and tragic ground of the wild frontier. The saga of fighting men who rode the rim of empire. And the dramatic story of Lee Quince, Captain of Cavalry.
Might as well stay mounted, Sergeant. Looks like their stage is ready.
Yes, sir.
I'll talk to the agent. Morning, Mr. Church.
Morning to you, Captain. Did you come for them?
My orders say to meet Mr. and Mrs. Horace Quiring at the Red Cloud Agency and escort them to Fort Laramie.
Good.
That their stage outside?
It is. Did you hear me say good?
I heard you.
Good. That's good for their leaving and good for good riddance, too.
Bureau of Indian Affairs bothering you, Mr. Church?
Bothering's a small word, Captain. I won't try to spell it all out for you. You wouldn't believe me if I did. Suffice it to say, I am played out.
Well, if they're ready...
The Indians are played out, too.
What's the matter with them?
You don't know these folks at all?
Huh? The Major says Mr. Quiring has something to do with the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Basket weaving, dancing, lore and culture studies, fire making, Indian mythology. Oh, I tell you, Captain, we've had a busy couple of weeks.
Well, if he wants to learn about the Indians, he'd...
Captain, he's been teaching.
He's been teaching the Indians how to make baskets?
That's the least of it. Him and his missus, too, touched up a few of the tribal dances. And that Gussie, she... I'll say, your orders don't mention Gussie?
Gussie?
She's their niece. A great hand to go around and make fires, rubbing a couple of dry sticks together.
Showed the Indians how, did she?
Oh, they was amazed. Oh, you wouldn't leave Gussie here. Well, I mean, seeing her name ain't set down in your orders. Oh, you wouldn't do a trick like that to me, Captain.
I'll take 'em all.
Oh, good. Of course, that poses a problem, too.
How's that?
You gotta find 'em first.
They lost?
Always. Let's go, Captain. Can you see them yet?
I make out 3 heads up at the top of the rocks. Guess they're heads.
That's the Quiring. From a distance, there's always some question. Then you get close up and... Oh, I've got to rest. Oh, dear. I'm getting lightheaded.
I don't see how they got up that high. Especially the women.
No, you don't. You've got to catch them in the act to believe it. And then you'd swear you hadn't seen it. Oh, active. Mighty active.
Well, I'll go up and get them. Can't keep the patrol sitting around all morning.
I figure they're your responsibility now, Captain. I've done all I can do, and then some.
We'll pick you up on our way down.
All right.
Oh, my. Yes.
Mr. Quiring?
Hush.
I never hoped for this, truly. A Lagopus mutus.
What's your Latin, Gussie? Lagopus leucurus.
Strictly speaking, of course, it's a rupestris. But you can't blame the girls for being carried away.
You talking about that bird there on the ledge?
Oh, I know you're going to tell me it's a white-tailed ptarmigan. But in bird circles, it's a...
It's a grouse.
Well, yes, if you want to be blunt, it's a grouse.
Horace?
Right here, Winifred.
Only in the broadest sense is the ptarmigan a grouse. Akin, I'll give you. Nothing more.
Remember, Uncle Horace? Aunt Winifred's last paper before the Ornithological Society definitely established the ptarmigan as a gallinaceous bird akin to the grouse.
Oh, you see, young man, you want to have your facts well in hand before you take on the Quiring girls. Oh, so by the way, who are you?
I'm Captain Quince. I'm in charge of your cavalry escort to Fort Laramie.
Oh, yes, indeed, of course. Well, now, I'm Horace Quiring. Oh, and this is my wife, Winifred, and my niece, Augusta. We call her Gussie. Gussie. Girls, Captain Quince.
Ma'am? Miss?
Shake hands, Captain.
Yes, ma'am.
My goodness, Quince.
Well, she's thinking of the Australian black ash.
Oh?
Indeed, I'm not, Uncle Horace. We studied the quince at the seminary. I'm thinking more in terms of the pear-shaped fruit of the Pyrus Sidonium.
Well, she has you there, Horace.
Oh, yeah. I warn you, Captain. They keep a man on his pace. Well, shall we make our descent?
Yes, I kind of think we better.
Maybe it's a little early for him to have breakfast, Lee.
For the Quirings? They probably struck out before dawn and roasted a buffalo on an open fire. A fire Gussie made rubbing 2 dry sticks together.
I know you don't like your assignment, Lee, but there's no cause to exaggerate.
I thought the Indian agent was exaggerating, too.
They seem like perfectly nice people to me. A pleasant, close-knit family.
You spent 5 minutes with them. Never got past how to do.
Mrs. Daggett was leaving on the stage. I explained that.
That's all right. Maybe it's better you find out for yourself. The Indian agent says they know more about Indians than the Indians do. They might start telling us how to run the guard mount.
I wish they'd come. I'm starved.
Maybe they're lost.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Well, the Indian agent says they're always lost. You see, they go climbing around a lot, looking for birds and things.
Well, they're not lost this time. Here's Mr. Quiring.
Well, my goodness. Oh, don't you bother getting up for me, Major and Captain.
Morning, Mr. Quiring.
Morning, sir.
Oh, isn't it? Oh.
Sit down, Mr. Quiring.
Thank you. All right. Well, now, how nice. So this is the officers' mess, is it?
That's right. Would you like some coffee while we're waiting?
Oh, I'd love some Nothing like a good cup of coffee. Waiting?
For the ladies.
And the ladies?
For Mrs. Quiring, Miss Gussie.
Oh, the girls. See, where are they?
Well, I just supposed you'd all be together.
We were? Yeah, but that was at breakfast. I haven't seen the girls since breakfast. A little raspy in the throat, are we, Captain?
No, I sort of choked.
Oh, you want to watch that? That's bad business.
You've had breakfast, Mr. Quiring?
My goodness, yes. Why, it's after 7, Major. Oh, it was a good breakfast, too. It was outdoors, open fire. All the sounds of the aurora as the sun came up and shone with its full glory on Laramie Peak.
You say an open fire, Mr. Quiring?
Yes, Gussie insists on an open fire. Ever since she learned how to... the things young ladies learn in seminaries these days. Just open your eyes.
Mind telling us what you had for breakfast?
Not at all. Glad to. Winifred's department, the food, she made the boast. But to tell you the truth, I never thought she'd bag it. Well, sir, she wasn't up in that canyon 5 minutes until... Bang, bang! Oh, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't frighten you, Major.
No. I'm all right.
Bang, bang. What, Mr. Quiring?
Oh, breakfast. Yes, breakfast.
It wasn't a buffalo by any chance.
Oh, no. A buffalo. I don't believe Winifred could have bagged a buffalo. No, it wasn't a buffalo.
No, I didn't think it would be.
No, it was an antelope. Say, that is a bad throat you've got there, Captain.
I guess it comes from exaggerating things. Wouldn't you say, Major?
I've got some business to attend to. Better get over to headquarters.
But you haven't had your breakfast, Major.
Well, I'm not hungry.
Oh, no. I'll bet Winifred could tempt you with some of that antelope. Oh, my. Delicate, succulent. I hope their foray into the woods was successful. I couldn't go with them. You see, I was most anxious.
What foray into what woods, Mr. Quiring?
What woods? Now, let me get my bearings. Which way is north?
That way.
That's splendid. Yes, that's it. There are some woods to the north, and last time I saw the girls, they were...
Captain Quince, you're to form a search party immediately. Take what men you need.
Search party? Why?
The land to the north is Indian country, Mr. Quiring.
Well, of course, that's why they went, but, oh, my goodness, a search. You speak as if the girls are lost.
We're speaking as if they're in danger, Mr. Quiring. Those woods are full of Arapaho, Shoshone, Crow.
Oh, I don't think they'll bother the girls. But I am glad you mentioned that. I've been meaning to have a chat with you concerning the perimeter defense of the fort.
Captain?
Yes, sir.
Move out.
Yes, now, Major...
right away, sir.
I noticed last night a tattoo. It it seem to me, if you'd make the slightest...
I wonder if I understood you correctly, Captain. We're to look up in the trees as well?
You understood me, Mr. Syberts. Up in the trees, up on rock ledges, up on cliffs.
The ladies climb, sir?
Climb or fly, I don't know. But you pick a spot no one can get to except maybe an eagle. They'll be there.
Captain. Shh.
Ahead of us, Mr. Syberts.
Sounds like a grizzly.
Like no grizzly I ever heard. Put your rifle down, Mr. Syberts. Let's give him a hand.
It's an Indian, Captain.
That poor devil.
Somebody stuffed a gag in his mouth, and what's all this he's caught in?
That, Mr. Syberts, is a butterfly net.
Well, how on earth?
Here, give me a hand.
Yes, sir.
Let's get that kerchief out of his mouth.
No kill.
You're all right. We're not going to kill you. What are we caught on, Mr. Syberts?
It's a handle or something, sir. Trapped down in this brush.
You let go. I run. I no come here again. You let go. White squaws. Crazy.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Young man, down there. Don't set him free.
Captain, look where she is. Clear up at the top of the...
I told you, Mr. Syberts.
You better come down from there, Mrs. Quiring.
No, you not let her down here again. I run. White squaw full of bad spirits.
Shut up.
Young man, do as I say. Leave the Indian as you found him. He bothers us.
Keep working, Mr. Syberts. Let him go when you get him free. I'll go up and get the girls.
Are you hard of hearing, young man? I hallooed you on 2 occasions about the Indian, and
I heard you, Mrs. Quiring.
And you deliberately let him go after I told you he bothered us.
He won't bother you anymore. See down there? He's running like fired on.
They've flown, Aunt Winifred, but with all the commotion, who can blame them?
Indeed. First the Indian, and we silenced him. But now, just look around down there, Gussie. Enough army to... Have you lost something important, Captain?
Ma'am, you gotta understand a few things about the West, about Indians, about Army garrisons.
Well, now, if that isn't what we're trying our level best to do, Captain Quince, and how better to do it than by going directly to nature, studying the birds of flight, the animals...
Miss Gussie.
Yes?
Miss Gussie, this is Indian country. You're not allowed to go directly to nature in Indian country, not if you're a white woman.
Now that's plain silly.
It's a treaty says so, Mrs. Quiring. Took a long time, talking, negotiating, giving and taking. And finally, it was decided the Indians were the only ones with rights to this land.
The Indian didn't mean us any harm, did you think, Aunt Winifred?
Furthest thing from his mind. He was nosy, that's all. Gussie and I had stolen up on... Now, mind what I tell you, Captain. We'd stolen up on a bittern, a sharp-shinned hawk.
Aunt Winifred, your language.
I'm breaking it down for the captain. Remember the problem we had earlier about what he called a grouse?
Oh, of course.
Ma'am, if you'll let me get a word
a bittern, a sharp-shinned hawk, a goshawk, a bald eagle, and a crow.
A crow, Aunt Winifred?
The Indian was a crow, wasn't he, Captain?
Yes, ma'am. He was a crow. And to use her words, Major, when the crow persisted in making so much noise, we did the only reasonable thing. That's when they dropped the butterfly net on him and gagged him with a kerchief.
Wait a minute, I've lost track. Is this crow a bird or a...
Indian.
Captain, the Army's been my life for 15 years. But this business with the Quirings may bring it to an untimely conclusion. I'm about to write Washington that if they send another party out here in the name of investigating anything, I'll resign.
How long the Quiring's going to be putting up here?
He hasn't said. But this is an order, Captain. From now on, I'm assigning you to a full-time watch on the three of them. We can't always be sending search parties out to find them.
There's no watching the three of them at one time. They got a way of pairing off or striking out alone.
Assign a man to each of them. But I want them accounted for at all times.
Hope we don't have any Indian uprisings before they leave. We couldn't spare the men to fight them.
Oh, no.
Yeah? That'd be Mrs. Quiring.
What on earth's she doing with Sergeant Gorse?
Talking to him, anyway. I'd have to get closer to find out what about.
You go ahead, Captain. I'm going over to the Sutlers. I just remembered Mrs. Daggett's out of Hatpin.
Are you sure you're trying to understand?
I'm not sure, no, ma'am. I hear what you're saying, all right.
It's a perfectly simple and direct statement. Toe out.
Toe out.
Oh, Captain Quince, help me make this nice sergeant understand.
What's wrong, Sergeant?
I don't rightly know, Captain. Something about the way I walk or don't walk or something. The lady, she...
You two haven't met? Formally?
Well, now
She just come on me talking.
Well, then, allow me. Ms. Quiring, this is Sergeant Gorse.
Shake hands, Sergeant.
Yes, ma'am.
Now then, did you say Gorse?
Yes, ma'am. That's my name, Gorse.
Wonderful! Oh, wonderful! Wait till I tell Gussie and Horace. A Quince and a Gorse on the same army post. Oh, I can't wait. This is too good to keep. You'll excuse me?
Yes, ma'am.
And don't forget, Sergeant, toe out. Toe out.
She sure got a bird somewhere, ain't she?
Maybe.
You think I walk funny, Captain?
I'm beginning to think everyone's a little funny around here one way or another.
My name. What's she going on about my name for?
Well, she knows what it means.
Well, what does it mean?
I don't know. Now, me, I got a couple of choices. They can't decide if I'm an Australian black ash or the pear-shaped fruit of the Pyrus Sidonia.
Captain, I'm going to go get me some beer.
See you practice on the way over, Sergeant. Don't forget. Toe out.
Now, you just got to make up your mind to stay put, Mr. Quiring. We can't come looking for you every now and then.
Well, I've never lost, you know. Never. I always know where I am. I have maps and charts.
Well, it's more that I don't know where you are.
Oh, then you're lost.
No, sir, I'm not. I'm just...
Oh, well, that's a different matter entirely. But don't worry, I'll get us back. I have maps and charts and things. Can't understand Winifred, though. That's my wife, Winifred.
Yes, sir.
It's not like her to steer me wrong this way. Usually, Winifred's word is her bond. She says something, it's true. But this time she... by the way, I don't believe I caught your name, Sergeant.
My name's Gorse.
Oh, yes, Sergeant Oh, that's a fine name. Imagine you're quite proud of it. Did you say Gorse?
I sure did.
Oh, my. Well, that's a good one. Well, now the joke's on me, Sergeant.
It is, huh?
Yes. Winifred didn't steer me wrong at all. She said... Oh, my, this is rich. Yes, it is. It's rich. She was telling me about the gorse, you see, and I was quite naturally excited about that.
Why?
Well, for a good reason, I assure you. You don't run into gorse every day, you know.
Well, I don't, but... Now, look here, Mr. Quiring.
Well, I quite naturally assumed that Winifred was referring to the common furs, or whin. And that's why I struck out to see it. Perhaps snip a sample or two.
I sure don't know what you're talking about. And your wife. I hear everything she says, and I don't know what she's talking about neither.
Well, then as I rode out, I got to thinking, perhaps Winifred wasn't referring to the common furs or whin at all. Yes, I said, well, it's been years since I read her paper on the gorse, but I remember the main points, all right. So let me see now. There's the gorse linnet, the gorse chat, gorse hatch, gorse hatcher, and gorse thatcher.
What are you talking about? All them gorses?
Oh, my. Oh, now, say. Oh, shame on me. Well, I never remember to keep it simple for the layman. Will I never remember? Well, to begin at the beginning again. We're back now to the furs and the wind. That's very like juniper.
That last bunch with all them gorses in front of
birds. Yeah, songbirds, many of them.
You like birds. Is that what you're saying?
Do I like birds? Oh, my dear gorse. Birds and I... Oh, I'm sorry, but a sergeant named Gorse... Well, Winifred will just have to do a paper on that.
Oh, we got a lot more interest in birds than that out here.
You do?
Oh, sure. What? You don't want to mess around with common old gorses when you can come up on say, the jayhawk.
Yes?
He flies backwards, you know.
Backwards?
Then there's the mugwump.
Mugwump?
Mm-hmm.
Did you say mugwump? My goodness, I thought they were extinct.
Oh, no. No, we got them all over out here. Then there's the three-footed firebird.
Three-footed?
Stands on one, rubs his other two together, makes fires.
Gussie will be thrilled.
I just can't believe this. That's why I come up here, Captain. They're really leaving?
That's what they say. Pushing farther west on the trail of a three-footed firebird.
I told them California, up high in the Sierra. Leastwise, the last covey I saw was there.
I understand Mrs. Quiring's going to give you full credit on her paper about them. You better count heads here. Here's Mr. Quiring talking to the major.
Well, I seen Mrs. Quiring not 2 minutes ago. She was helping the squaw do some Indian beadwork.
Well, she isn't doing it now. Find her, Gorse.
Oh, now. She ain't run away again, Captain.
I want them all three on that stage, Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Keep an eye out for Miss Gussie while you're at it, Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Captain. Captain?
Yes, Mr. Quiring?
Well, now, I wouldn't want to miss shaking your hand in farewell, Cap. The stage is packed. I've said my goodbyes to the major. You lose something?
Your wife. And I don't see Miss Gussie either.
Well, now, let me see. Well, if I were Winifred, now, where would I go? I always begin that way, you see, and then I let my mind function as if it were Winifred's mind. The root house.
That's clear over behind the settlers.
That far? Well, when we go over...
What's she doing at the root house?
Oh, my, you didn't know? She found a small flowering gorse and thought it only fair.
Never mind.
Captain Quince!
What now?
It's Miss Gussie, Captain.
You see, Captain, we're all accounted for. There's no problem.
No, I'm afraid there is, sir. It seems Miss Gussie was demonstrating how quickly she... Well, they don't think it's too serious, but under the circumstances, they took her to the post hospital.
Hospital?
Yes,
Under what circumstances, Mr. Syberts?
Burned hands, Captain. But the doctor says in a few days she'll be able to travel.
In a few days. Mm-hmm. Mr. Syberts, this is an order. For the next few days, no dry sticks for Miss Gussie. Now move out.
Fort Laramie is produced and directed by Norman MacDonald and stars Raymond Burr as Lee Quince, Captain of Cavalry, with Vic Perrin as Sergeant Gorse. The script was specially written for Fort Laramie by Kathleen Height, with sound patterns by Bill James and Tom Henley. Musical supervision by Amerigo Marino. Featured in the cast were Howard McNear, Virginia Gregg, Parley Bear, Shirley Mitchell, and John Daner. Jack Moyles is Major Daggett, and Harry Bartell is Lieutenant Seiberts.
Company, tension! Dismiss.
Next week, another transcribed story of the Northwest frontier and the troopers who fought under Lee Quince, Captain of Cavalry. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is no signature on a Valentine. Not that our danger-loving insurance investigator is opposed to romance. It's just that the detective's profession calls for a pragmatic approach to life if he wants to go on living. That's why, no matter how lovely a lady may be, and no matter how attracted to her Johnny Dollar may be, solving the particular case he's working on always takes precedence over sentiment. The case he's working on now calls for courage as well as caution, and it's a baffling mystery thriller you'll enjoy following clue by clue as you listen to yours truly, Johnny Dollar, Monday through Friday evening on most of the same CBS radio stations.
Three-quarters of the Gunsmoke cast on this episode of Fort Laramie, along with a regular there, too, John Daner. Fort Laramie, 68 years ago, July 29th, 1956. That was a Sunday. Some of the headlines on this day included Acting Secretary of State Herbert Hoover, Jr., calling Egypt's ambassador to the office and told him in blunt terms the U.S. is fed up with Egyptian President Nasser's intemperate insults. The ambassador, Ahmed Hussein, replied that he could not accept the protest. Hoover told Hussein the U.S., shocked by the many intemperate, inaccurate, and misleading statements made about this country by Nasser during the past few days. He referred specifically to a speech Nasser delivered in Alexandria on Thursday. In that speech, Nasser announced seizure of the Suez Canal and delivered a blistering attack against the U.S. and Egypt for refusing to help Egypt financed the proposed Aswan Dam. Defense goes to bat at the court-martial of Staff Sergeant Matthew C. McKeon, with an early witness expected to be Lieutenant General Lewis B. Chester Puller, famed supporter of rough, tough training for Marines. Puller, who has often said a good Marine should be able to walk 20 miles, run 5, and then go into battle and win, is now retired and lives in Saluda, Virginia. United Steel Workers and major steel companies began hammering out local issues which must be settled before 650,000 strikers return to their jobs. A military transport plane had engine trouble out in the Pacific, awakening about a dozen youngsters aboard the 98 persons aboard. Its competent crew and stewardesses took charge so quickly that most of the children went back to sleep. Albert Wolson, last survivor of the Civil War's Boys in Blue, lay in a coma late today at St. Luke's Hospital in Duluth, Minnesota, where he's been confined with lung congestion. Hospital attendants said there was no change in the 109-year-old veteran's condition since he lapsed into unconsciousness early yesterday. those some of the news stories from the newspapers of Sunday, the 29th day of July, 1956, 68 years ago. After Fort Laramie, you heard from William Conrad. That'll be up next with the other member of the Gunsmoke cast in an episode of Gunsmoke. That's up next.
That machine you hear is a zip code scanner in action. An electronic device that actually reads the zip code on your letters and speeds them on their way at the fantastic rate of 36,000 per hour. Put it to work for you. Use zip code on every letter you send. Don't hold up the mail. Remember, mail moves the country, and zip code moves the mail.
Those fancy new machines, don't you know, taking over everything. Alrighty, on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we go back to Sunday, July 29, 1956, 68 years ago, for an episode of Gunsmoke and the Lost Rifle.
Gunsmoke, brought to you by Chesterfield. Chesterfield packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed, thanks to Accuray. They satisfy the most.
Around Dodge City and in the territory on West, there's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with a U.S. Marshal and the smell of gun smoke. Gunsmoke, starring William Conrad. The transcribed story of the violence that moved west with young America. And the story of a man who moved with it.
I'm that man, Matt Dillon, United States Marshal. The first man they look for and the last they want to meet. It's a chancy job, and it makes a man watchful and a little lonely.
Hey, Tipple, move that horse you're over so I can get mine in there.
This hitch rack's pretty crowded, Ferris. Can't you tie up someplace else?
I said move him over.
Here, now, don't do that.
No?
You hit my horse again, I'll shoot you, Paris.
You won't do nothing.
What's the matter with you? You drunk?
You got a complaint about something, Tipple?
Yeah, Paris, I got a complaint.
Go ahead, Tipple, I'm waiting.
All right, hold it there, you men.
You stay out of this, Marshal.
Not likely.
Now, look here, Marshal. I know you're a friend of Tipple's, but I don't know as I like you're protecting him this hard.
I'm not protecting anybody, Paris. I'm stopping a gunfight. Now, you get moving.
I'll meet you any time, Paris.
You shut up.
We'll meet right enough when you ain't got your nursemaid around.
Why'd you stop it, Matt? He had it coming to him.
You're pretty hot-tempered, aren't you, Ben?
Did you see what he done?
That's no reason to shoot a man, and you know it.
An ordinary man, no, but that Paris has been looking for trouble for a long time.
I know what he's like. But you keep away from him, Ben.
It's bound to happen, Matt, sooner or later, and I don't hide from no man. You know me well enough for that.
This doggone old river's awful high for this time of year, ain't it, Mr. Dillon?
They must have been having some big rains up in Colorado.
Oh, now that's where I'd like to be.
Up in them tall, cool mountains.
Yeah?
My, just think of laying on your back up there in the deep grass, drinking snow water and eating trout, and listening to all them pretty birds singing away.
We'll miss you, Chester.
Oh, I ain't going nowhere.
Hey, look on the bank there.
Some fellow fishing. He must have fell asleep.
He isn't asleep, Chester.
No, sir. I don't believe he is. Why, that's Frank Parrish, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah. Shot in the back.
Well, that's terrible. There's his pole. By golly, he was sitting here fishing and somebody sneaked up and shot him. Oh, that's a mean way to die.
We'll get a wagon and carry him back to Dodge.
All right.
Get on, Chester.
What? I can't see nobody.
All right, come out of there. You can't get both of us. Come out or we'll start shooting.
Don't shoot, Marshal. I'm coming.
What?
Why, it's only a kid. Sandy Spangler.
Andy, what are you doing out here?
Nothing, Marshal. I was going to go fishing, but I lost my line.
Why were you hiding in the brush there?
Him. I heard a shot some time ago, and I come looking around, and I found him laying there. And I got scared when I heard you ride up, so I hid.
You didn't see anybody?
Oh, no, I didn't see nothing. Whoever did it was gone.
Oh, my goodness, Mr. Dillon.
What is it, Chester?
Well, the way Frank and Ben Tipple was carrying on, you don't suppose Ben could have did it, do you? I know he's a good friend of yours and all.
Never mind, Chester. Well, let's get back to town. Come on, Andy. You can ride behind me.
That whistling man, Bobby Haggart, really started something. Tonight, the Calypso Boys join in. Ready, amigos?
Packs more pleasure, packs more pleasure. Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
It stands to reason a cigarette made better and packed better, smokes better, tastes better. And Chesterfield is more perfectly packed by Accuray. This electronic miracle removes human error in cigarette manufacture. So Accuray Chesterfield is firm and pleasing to the lips, mild yet deeply satisfying. Yes, Chesterfield gives you something no other cigarette can give you.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
To the touch, to the taste, Chesterfield packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed. By Chesterfield, mild, yet they satisfy the most.
Hello, Ben.
Why, Matt. Come in. I was about to take a little nap. Now it's cooled off some.
Ben, you heard what happened to Frank Parrish yesterday?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard.
Well?
Are you asking me if I did it, Matt?
Most everybody in Dodge thinks you did.
And what do you think?
Well, I've been telling everybody I've known Ben Tipple a long time, and that he's hot-tempered, and that Frank Parrish has been prodding him every chance he had. But the Paris didn't even have his gun out. Besides, he was shot in the back.
Mm-hmm. What are people saying to that?
They're saying you're a friend of mine. They think that's why I haven't arrested you.
Well, is it?
I'd go after my own brother if I thought he murdered a man, Ben.
Happened yesterday morning sometime, didn't it, Matt?
Yeah, that's right.
I got no alibi for then. I wasn't with nobody.
Yeah, that's too bad. It would have helped.
I might have shot Frank Parrish someday, Matt, but never in the back.
I know that, Ben. But until I find out who did it, you better lay low.
Just look at this place, Matt.
Oh, what's wrong, Kitty?
Well, it may be the biggest saloon in Dodge, but it's sure the emptiest.
Oh, you're getting greedy, Kitty.
And it's about time. I'm sure not getting younger.
You're going to be able to retire before you're 30.
Why not?
Well, I'm glad somebody's getting rich around here. Law sure isn't.
No. But the law keeps busy.
What?
Joe Spangler and his pa. I think he's looking for you, Matt.
Oh.
Evening, Miss Kitty.
Evening.
I want to talk to you, Marshal.
Go ahead, Spangler.
I want to know why you ain't got Ben Tipple in jail.
Frank Paris was a friend of yours, wasn't he?
That don't matter.
And it doesn't matter that Ben Tipple's a friend of mine. He didn't do it, Spangler.
There's a lot of people who think he did, Marshal.
You have any proof?
Well, my boy Andy, I think he saw Tipple out there. And I'll get it out of him. I whipped him once already.
Look, Spangler, your boy'd have told me if he'd seen anybody. Why would he try to protect Ben Tipple?
Scared.
Scared of what?
You? What you might do to him if he talked?
Now, just a minute, Spangler.
Now, he's gonna talk before I'm through.
You get out of here. You're making me mad.
Well, no, I didn't aim to do that, Marshal. All I wanted is to get you to do your job before somebody has to do it for you.
Easy, Matt.
Yeah. I ought to take him apart.
Well, that wouldn't help.
It'd make me feel better.
You'll be all right. Soon as you find out who did kill Paris.
How am I going to find that out, Kitty? With all this going on, he's as safe as a bear in a hickory tree.
Well, looks to me like you're going to have a busy day today, man.
I am? Why, Doc?
Well, I don't know. Now, maybe it's because you did so little yesterday.
Do I owe you some money or something, Doc?
Oh, no. You're all paid up, but, you know, man, I've been thinking.
How much you want, Doc?
Oh, $10 to do it.
Yeah. Here you are.
Oh, well, thank you.
Sure, Doc. Just pay it back by Friday, that's all.
Oh, no, wait a minute. You think I was merely asking for a loan?
You have your own way of doing things, Doc.
So's he.
What?
Look, that filthy Spangler. No. He's cuffing his boy around again.
No, Pa, don't.
I've had about enough of his ways.
I warned you, boy. I warned you what you did.
No, don't, Pa. I didn't mean to do it.
You won't learn, will you?
All right, that's enough, Spangler.
What? Yeah, you just get out of here, Marshal. You ain't interfering in this.
Let the boy go, Spangler.
Let him go.
I said that's enough. Andy, you stand over here. He won't hit you again.
I didn't mean to do it. I told him I didn't.
What did you do, Andy?
I lost his rifle. I borrowed it to go hunting, and I fell across the river, and I lost it.
I ought to kill you, Marshal.
Don't try it, Spangler. Now, come on, get on your feet.
What right you got coming between the man and his boy?
None, I guess, but I took it anyway.
That kid ought to be in jail stealing like he does.
He wasn't stealing.
It ain't none of your business, Marshal. And I ain't gonna talk to you about it. Andy, I'll see to you later.
You beat him again, and I'll throw you in jail.
He won't beat me because I ain't going home. Not ever.
Now, what'll your mother think, Andy?
I got no mother.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot, Andy.
And he hates me.
Look, Andy, if things get bad, you come see me, huh? Anytime. Will you do that?
Maybe.
And don't let your pa make you say anything that isn't true, Andy. You don't have to. You understand? Yeah. All right. Now, you just remember, you can come see me anytime.
Where are you listening to Gunsmoke? In your favorite easy chair? Or out driving? Oh, there you are. In the kitchen. Say, you want to make whatever you're doing more enjoyable? Have a Chesterfield. Enjoy Chesterfield's better taste and mildness. It stands to reason a cigarette made better and packed better, smokes better, tastes better. And Chesterfield is more perfectly packed by Accuray. This electronic miracle removes human error in cigarette manufacture. So Accuray Chesterfield is firm and pleasing to the lips, mild yet deeply satisfying. Yes, Chesterfield gives you something no other cigarette can give you.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
To the touch, to the taste, Chesterfield packs more pleasure because it's more perfectly packed. By Chesterfield, mild, yet they satisfy the most.
A pretty night, Mr. Dillon. Look at all them stars up there just a-shining away.
Yeah. And look at all those lights in the saloons just a-shining away.
You ain't much of a nature lover, are you?
Not while I got work to do, Chester.
What work?
Well, for the next few hours, I got to walk around and try to make sure nobody's going to get cheated or get too drunk or get killed, maybe.
You're right. Sometimes that can turn into work. Well, looky there. It's Andy. Now, what's he up to?
Marshal Dillon!
Yeah, what's the trouble, Andy?
They're in that alley right back there. Come on, hurry, come on.
Well, who's in the alley?
Pa and Ben Tipple. Pa's got him cornered.
What?
Pa's got the drop on him. He hid out in there and waited for him to come by.
But how do you know? What were you doing there?
I thought Pa was after me, but he's going to shoot Ben Tipple. I know he is.
Well, maybe I can stop him, Andy.
I hope so, but I don't know how.
All right, let's slow down here. You wait here with Chester, Andy. I'm going to go in there alone.
I'm sick of arguing here with you, Tipple. Might as well admit it, and you know it.
I wouldn't have minded shooting Frank Parrish, but not in the back. Not even him.
I guess I'm going to have to kill you.
You'll die yourself if you pull that trigger, Spangler.
Marshal.
Now, you drop that gun.
No. He killed Frank Parrish, and I'm going to shoot him if I die for it myself.
Don't be a fool.
He's got my gun, Matt.
Just stand steady, Ben.
Marshal,
Get back, Andy.
I've got to tell you something.
He slipped away from him, Mr. Dillon.
It's terribly important.
Help me keep an eye on Spangler, Chester.
Yes, sir.
All right, now what is it, Andy? Hurry up.
Bend over, I got to whisper it.
What?
I found that
What's going on there?
Never mind. You got two men who'll shoot you now, Spangler, and you better not try nothing.
I'm getting mighty tired of this. What's that kid doing here anyway?
Well, he didn't come here to murder nobody like his pa did.
Ben Tipple's the murderer, not me.
No, he isn't, Spangler. Tipple didn't shoot Frank Paris.
You said that before, Marshal.
Andy did it.
Andy?
He just told me.
What are you saying?
It was an accident. He saw something move and he thought it was an animal, so he fired at it.
I don't believe it.
The day he took your rifle. When he found he'd shot Paris, he got scared and threw the rifle into the river. You tell him, Andy.
It's true. I was too scared to tell anybody before.
All right. You heard him, Spangler. Now put up that gun.
I don't believe him. He's lying. You stay where you are, Marshal.
Put up your gun, I said.
Not hardly.
You killed him, Matt.
He almost killed me, Ben. Andy, I'm sorry about your paw. But you go with Chester now, huh?
He wasn't my pa.
What?
My real pa died a long time ago. My ma told me about it when she made me change my name.
Oh.
I guess that's why he never did like me much. Beat me all the time.
Yeah.
Marshal,
What, Andy?
when are you going to hang me?
Hang you?
For shooting Mr. Paris.
Is that what you've been thinking?
I admitted doing it, didn't I?
It was an accident, Andy. Nobody's gonna hang you. Ben.
What, Matt?
He's a mighty brave boy.
Yeah. Yeah, he sure is. Why, he spoke up just now to save my life, thinking he'd be hung for it, didn't he? Andy, how'd you like to come home with me? I got a place for a boy like you.
You mean that?
I sure do.
Marshal, you believe me? You think he means it?
Yeah, Andy. I think he means it.
In a moment, our star, William Conrad.
Chesterfield packs more pleasure because Chesterfield's more perfectly packed.
A cigarette made better and packed better, smokes better, tastes better. And Chesterfield is more perfectly packed by Accuray. This electronic miracle removes human error in cigarette manufacture. So Accuray Chesterfield is firm and pleasing to the lips. Chesterfield, mild, yet they satisfy the most.
You know, along the frontier, whether because of Indians, a gunman's bullet, or lack of water, death was always near at hand. But next week, it's a girl who causes the death of 4 men. And that was the West. Good night.
Gunsmoke, produced and directed by Norman MacDonald, stars William Conrad as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal. Our story was specially written for Gunsmoke by John Meston, with music composed and conducted by Rex Corey. Sound patterns by Tom Hanley and Bill James. Featured in the cast were John Daner, Vic Perrin, Richard Beals, and Jack Crucian. Harley Bear is Chester, Howard McNear is Doc, and Georgia Ellis is Kitty.
Live modern. Smoke L&M.
Live modern. Change to L&M.
Live modern. Smoke L&M. Only with L&M can you enjoy the full, exciting flavor of today's finest tobaccos. No other cigarette, plain or filter, gives you the full, exciting flavor you get through the pure white Miracle Tip. So light up, free up, let your taste come alive. Live modern. Smoke L&M. Join us again next week for another specially transcribed story on Gunsmoke.
There you have it, 68 years ago, July 29th, 1956, Gunsmoke here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Quick reminder, tomorrow we'll take a look at Sunday, July 30th, 1961, with episodes of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Mandel Kramer, an episode of Suspense entitled You Can Die Laughing. A woman and her lover carefully plan the murder of her husband, her jolly and ever-laughing Herbert. Herbert gets the last laugh, literally. An episode of The Saint starring Vincent Price in the case of the previewed crime. An episode of The Whistler and the Borrowed Byline. And another episode of Dr. Roebling and the Voice Machine in Superman. But coming up next, we'll hear from Claudia and David.
Dear Ralph, I am writing to tell you that I have reached a decision about what we should do.
Dear Mom, our platoon was on bivouac last week, so this is my first chance to write.
Dear Eddie, thanks for inviting me to your party. I had a very good time, and
The letters we write are so important to us and to the people who are waiting for them. So when you write, take the extra 3 seconds required to add zip code to the mailing address. Zip code helps improve mail service, helps our postal workers to sort mail faster and deliver it by more direct routes. That's why zip belongs on every mailing address, and on your return address, too, so others can easily zip their mail to you. Help improve mail service by using zip code. It will bring you a little bit closer to everyone you know.
We wrap up this Monday edition of Classic Radio Theater with an episode of Claudia from 76 years ago, July 29th, 1948.
Your Coca-Cola bottler presents Claudia, based on the famous play and novels by Rose Franken. Brought to you transcribed Monday through Friday by your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. Relax, and while you're listening, refresh yourself. Have a Coke. And now, Claudia.
Claudia, stop tapping your foot. You're getting me nervous.
Oh, am I tapping my foot? I didn't know. Mama, I'm starting to feel stood up.
Well, then why don't you sit down on that suitcase?
I'd feel stood up sitting down. I wonder where David is.
He'll be along any minute.
That's so far from here to the garage. He shouldn't be taking this long.
Oh, leave that poor boy alone, Claudia.
I feel kind of silly standing around on the sidewalk with all this stuff strewn around.
Since when do you get embarrassed?
Oh, I'm not embarrassed. I just feel silly.
That's nothing new.
Baby doesn't seem to mind. Look, Mama, he's sound asleep in his carriage. Just think in a couple of hours we'll be back on the farm.
If David ever gets here from the garage.
Leave the poor boy alone, Mama.
Really, you are impossible.
It's one thing for you to say something. It's quite another thing for me to say it.
That is a brilliant observation.
On second thought, we don't have so much stuff to bring back, do we?
Your second thought is wrong. I still think we should have hired a truck.
Oh, nonsense. David's wonderful at packing cars. He'll be able to fit everything in with room left over.
That I will have to see.
You will, you will. La 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 dum da 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 dum. Hey, what's in that little box over there?
That little box?
Yeah.
Let me see.
I better open it to make sure we want it with us.
Don't you touch it.
Why not?
It belongs to me.
Since when are you so private?
Since always. Though I get little chance.
Oh, tell me what's in it.
I will not. And that's final.
Oh, see if I care. Say, what about the baby's bottle? He's due to have it in about, half an hour.
It's nestling in the carriage right beside him. I have it wrapped up so it won't get too cold.
Mama, you're so brilliant. You act as though you had experience with lots more babies than just me. You sure you didn't?
You were all the experience I needed.
There's David now. Yoo-hoo!
Claudia, shh. He sees you.
Hi.
Everything ready, darling?
Everything's been ready for half an hour. It's about time you got here.
I break my neck, and this is the thanks I get.
Pay no attention to her, David.
Claudia, why is it we always have more stuff when we leave a place than when we arrive there?
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, we came to Mama 3 weeks ago with just a couple of valises. And now, look.
Well, we've acquired a few things.
We certainly have.
Can't help that.
A few things. It looks like you've acquired a whole department store.
I suppose you'd like me to leave them behind.
Mm-hmm. That would help.
I suppose you'd like to leave the baby behind since we've acquired him since we've been in New York, too.
Oh, that would help even more.
Stop quibbling, children. Let's get started.
Don't quibble.
What's in this big box? Ouch. Filled with rocks.
Rocks? What would I be carrying rocks to Connecticut for? Our place is full of rocks.
This is no time for whimsy. What's in this?
That is mine, and no questions will be answered.
Mama has a secret.
It's about time. What's in this crate?
Oh, just a few books I received since the hospital.
If I thought you'd ever read them, I wouldn't mind so much. And say, it's an idea.
What?
For lugging them back to Eastbrook, I'm going to make you read every single one of these.
Honestly, Mama, what gets into men?
They don't like bundles.
But that's half the point of traveling.
Maybe it'd be simpler to pack up the car and carry this stuff.
Very funny.
I dread to think of repeating this process at the other end.
Oh, it won't be so bad. Undressing's always easier than dressing.
Now, let's see.
Now, I suggest you stop grumbling and get going. We'd be in Eastbrook already if you weren't making such a fuss.
I wonder where we can fit in the baby carriage.
Hey, wait a minute. Let me take the baby out of
Give
it.
him to me.
Now, here you are, Skeezix. You go to your grandmother. Can't imagine why, but she wants you. Don't you dare open your mouth.
Or else. Well, maybe I should take out the back seat and put the carriage in there.
Back seat?
No, the baby carriage.
Won't it fit in the trunk?
Now, what do you think?
I guess it won't. Too many wheels.
I'll have to put the valise in the trunk. How many are they?
Only 5. 3 big, 2 small.
Is that all?
That's all. Listen, David, if we didn't have to take the spare tire, we'd have room.
Don't you dare even suggest it. Haven't you learned your lesson?
All right. I was only trying to help.
The carriage won't fit in there. I'll have to put it in the back, and then the 4 of us will have to sit in the front.
It's a good thing the baby isn't grown up yet.
Certainly is.
You know, I think we ought to stand the little one up on the side, and the 3 big ones can go one on top of the other, and then the little one
Get
can go
away
on...
from me. Get away from me.
I don't know why you can't bear to have some good advice.
Get away.
What about tying the carriage on top of the car? You know, like skis?
Oh, great.
David, I have an idea.
You too, Mama.
You can put all the coats and small boxes in the carriage.
Yes?
Then we can put the boxes and... Oh, no. I guess it wouldn't work.
Of course, we could send the car up by itself, and then we could take the train.
I wouldn't mind. Oh, but think how all the other people on the road would feel, seeing a car on the road with nobody driving it.
Now, let me get these valises in. I feel like an Armenian peddler standing here on the sidewalk with all these boxes around.
You look like a peddler. You are mean, but that's the only Armenian thing about you.
Claudia, men don't appreciate jokes at a time like this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not this way. This one's too tall.
Lay it sideways.
Shut up.
Mama, listen to how he talks to me.
I don't blame him.
I'll try and get the carriage in the car, darling.
They just can't bear to part with anything.
David, don't look around now, but there's a man watching you.
Probably fascinated at how henpecked a man can be.
Looks like a sidewalk engineer to me. He's coming over. See you, David. Here.
Say, look. Just a suggestion, my friend.
Yes?
Now, wait a minute, look. Why not prop the 2 little suitcases on their sides in the corner? Then the 3 large ones will sit in the center.
Yeah, I've tried that, but they don't fit.
Doesn't?
No.
Well, what do you know? That's very strange. Very strange indeed.
My wife went to great lengths to choose them so they wouldn't.
Oh, married, huh?
Yes, I'm married, and I'm trying not to lose my temper.
You moving today?
Yes, we're moving.
You're very fortunate to find another apartment.
Well, we haven't found another apartment.
You haven't?
Hello, David. How you doing?
Terrible.
Oh, darling, I don't think the carriage is going to fit in the back either.
No.
Did you say you were moving, but you haven't found another apartment?
Yes, that's exactly what I said. This one fits in sideways better.
Well, that's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. Because now there's no room for the leather bag.
Well, how about propping it up with
Please,
some...
darling, please.
Well, then why are you moving?
Because I like packing the car.
Oh, wait a minute, there's nothing to get sore at. Now, you're moving without a new place?
If you must have an answer, we've been evicted.
David!
Evicted? You mean evicted?
That's what happened.
Evicted, huh?
Oh, David, wasn't it terrible?
Yes, turned out of our apartment. Forced to leave suddenly. Made to pack all our belongings into the car and move.
Well, you know, that's one of the most terrible things I've ever heard of. What happened? You say you were evicted?
We had a baby, and the landlord... Well, need I say more?
He was so hard-hearted about it.
A poor, harmless little boy. There he is, in his poor old grandmother's arm.
Evicted? What do you know about that?
Yes, she has to move, too.
Don't let Mommy hear you talking about her like that.
Say, well, this is one of the most terrible stories I've ever heard. Say, look here. Have you called the authorities?
What good would it do? If it's this kind of a world where families have to be turned out into the street, well, that's the kind of a world it is. Come on, Claudia, hand me the little suitcase. We'll try to find a home for it, too.
I ought to throw it at you.
Are you sure there isn't some way I can help? Anything I can do to help?
No, don't worry about it. There's nothing you can do except, well, it's nice to have met you.
You know, I think you're all very courageous.
Well, we really don't have very much to be courageous about, but...
Are you sure I can't do anything to help you?
I'm sure. We'll get along some way.
Say, you know, I've got a suggestion. If you put the big fat one on the bottom, it might fit a lot better that way.
Well, thanks.
Aren't you ashamed?
No, I'm not ashamed.
You ought to be pulling that man's leg like that, strumming on his heartstrings.
He turned out to be pretty nice. I can't stand sidewalk kibitzers. Say, it does go in the way he said. Oh, what do you know?
When are we going to get underway? It's almost time for the baby's bottle.
Let the baby wait. It's time he did his share. There. I guess this is as good as I can get the back of the car. We'll put this one under your foot.
So no grass will grow.
Now I'll get the carriage in. The coats and boxes will be all set.
You see, it hasn't been so bad.
Just a little wide.
Don't scrape the paint off.
That's the least of my worries. There. Now the coats and the boxes. Claudia.
Yeah?
Claudia, get in front and take the baby. And Mommy, you get next to her and close the door quickly so nothing falls out.
So bossy. Hand me the baby, Mama.
Here he is, Claudia. Move over and make room for me.
Now, take a deep breath, Mama.
Well, here we are, all on our way to Eastbrook.
I can hardly believe it.
Now, David, you less grumpy now that everything's fit into the car? I knew it would.
I never have been grumpy. Now move over. Make room for me.
I moved over as far as I can move over. It's your son. He's so fat.
At last. I hope the tires hold out.
Wouldn't it be funny if we had to unpack the car to get the spare tire out?
I apologize for her, David. She has a misplaced sense of humor.
Are we all set?
All set.
Wait a minute, David. Don't start the car.
What's the matter now?
The black frying pan.
What about it?
I have to go upstairs and get it.
You what?
I left it in Mama's stove. David, it's the most wonderful frying pan in the whole world for bacon. I'll only be a second.
We're going to Eastbrook without the black frying pan.
The pan is such a gorgeous frying pan.
It's black and dirty.
It is not.
It just looks dirty because it's black, but it's clean.
I'll buy you a new one.
It's not the same thing. It takes years and years to train a black frying pan. It's like antiques.
Then we'll have to do without it.
You are heartless. David, please let me get out of the car to get it, please.
What do I do now, Mrs.
Pay no attention to her. Just start the car and let's be on our way.
Oh, the two of you. You have no understanding.
I have understanding. The black frying pan is in that heavy box. I was a little embarrassed to say so, but I wouldn't go a step without it either.
Oh, Mama, now I love you as much as the frying pan.
And Mrs. Brown, you have no idea how I love you. Well, let's go.
It's no accident that Coca-Cola has become such a favorite with young people. It belongs with friendly occasions. It's delicious and wholesome. And it only costs a nickel a bottle. Why not have your grocer put a case of Coke in the car this afternoon? With Coke on ice, the young people in your house can play host to their friends in great style. That makes them feel good, and it makes you feel good, too.
Say, my friend, did those people really have a place to go?
Oh, yes. Yes, they do. A rather nice place at that. They'll be getting to their farm tomorrow.
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear it. Did the gentleman get all those pieces of his puzzle put together?
Just about. They left a minute ago.
Oh. I'd like to have seen how he packed the car. Didn't think he could do it. I got the same job coming up. The wife and I are going off for 2 weeks.
Well, I wish you a pleasant vacation.
Thanks, friend. It'll be okay if the little woman doesn't pack too many duds. Well, so long.
Well, so long, and thanks for your help. If all goes well, we'll hear the big arrival home tomorrow. Till then, as I was about to say, every day, Monday through Friday, Claudia comes to you transcribed with the best wishes of your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. So listen again tomorrow at the same time. And now this is Joe King saying au revoir. And remember, whoever you are, whatever you do, wherever you may be, when you think of refreshment, think of Coca-Cola. For Coca-Cola makes any pause the pause that refreshes. And ice-cold Coca-Cola is everywhere. This broadcast of Claudia was supervised and directed by William Brown Maloney.
76 years ago, July 29, 1948, Claudia on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Tomorrow, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, Suspense the Saint and the Whistler. And then on Wednesday, Crime Club, another episode of The Saint, and a double shot of Jack Webb with an episode of Dragnet and Jeff Regan, Investigator. See you at our webpage, classicradio.stream. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time for more Classic Radio Theater. I'm Wyatt Cox.